The Simpsons Hit Run is a prime example of what a licensed video game should be. In an era where a barrage of licensed games were at an all-time high, Radical Games was able to nail it out of the park, not once, but twice, while simultaneously reviving the reputation of Simpsons video games. Visiting iconic locations from the show, driving memorable vehicles, a full-on story that felt like an actual episode of the show. This was truly a game by the fans, for the fans. The fact that this game hasn't seen a re-release or remaster is borderline criminal, or a blessing depending on who you ask. Considering who's currently behind the Simpsons video game license, perhaps we dodged a bullet, a pay-to-win microtransaction bullet, but at the end of the day, something is a whole lot better than jack nothing, you know? EA basically bought the license to push out one mediocre Simpsons video game, and then follow it up with... Now, before you get mad at me for calling the Simpsons game mediocre, I know what you're saying, many of you enjoyed it, and to a certain extent, I did too. But let's face it, the game was arguably a step down from the Simpsons Hit and Run. It felt like they were trying to do too many things at once, but that's besides the point. But after the Simpsons game, we got a freemium mobile game. And then that's it. Radio silence. We lost out on an opportunity to have the Simpsons Hit and Run for, what, that? EA, you're sitting on a gold mine, and if you handled the game like you did with the recent Star Wars Jedi games, it would have undoubtedly been a certified hood classic. But who are we fooling? It'll take a miracle to hear an announcement for another Simpsons game. All we can do is theorize about what this miracle could actually look like. Alright, so let's say EA loses exclusivity rights to the Simpsons video games. Obviously, this hypothetical Simpsons game pitch wouldn't want to replicate the same mistakes from the last console-based Simpsons game, which was back in 2007, by the way, so, if you're not feeling old right now, you will. So instead of taking the risk of making a game from the ground up, they would probably want to go back and revive a classic, A remake of a beloved Simpsons game that everybody loves, that isn't a side-scroller beat-em-up. I mean, with the current trend of remaking classics, it should be a no-brainer. With the Simpsons game rights leaving the monopolized grasp of EA, this will leave development open to tons of competent studios. If it were up to me and I could choose the developers for the Simpsons Hit and Run remake, it would be Volition, nah, I'm just playing. Black Forest Games, the people who brought us the Destroy All Humans remakes. Not only did they manage to faithfully remake a classic beloved game, they absolutely nailed it out of the park. They updated everything from the movement system to the game controls, all while keeping it faithful to the source material. They should honestly be the ones to handle this massive task. They've already proven themselves twice that they can handle updating a classic and do it correctly, which is something that's not very easy to do. So honestly, if anybody's able to remake this game from the ground up, it'll be Black Forest Games for sure. What I like about the recent Destroy All Humans 2 remake was the way they handled the original maps. They overhauled it but kept it true to the originals. They added things like extra details, additional buildings, compared to the original map where it's just flat and empty. A similar thing could be said about Hit and Run's map. Well, not the flat and emptiness part, because the maps are anything but flat and empty. More so how outdated they are. All three sections of the map boils down to just one huge loop, with the occasional branching path that eventually merges into one. So look, let's face it, the original maps in the original Hit and Run are pretty much outdated. They did serve their purpose back in 2003, but I think it's one of those things that could benefit from a drastic facelift. It either needs to be connected somehow or just overhauled completely, or, maybe both. Connecting the three maps would be the best way to handle it in my opinion. One of the more disappointing things from the original Hit and Run was the inability to drive from one point of Springfield to the other. This prevented players from accessing certain locations as their preferred characters on foot. For example, you can't explore downtown or the Squidport as Homer. You also can't play as Bart or Lisa in Evergreen Terrace, at least without a cheat device or mods. And before anyone says, no, driver characters don't count, although it was a pretty neat feature in the original. I remember back in the day, my friends and I would spread these so-called playground rumors, and one of these rumors had it that you were able to find and unlock roads that can lead to other maps. Now, we all know this isn't the case. Obviously, they couldn't pull this off due to technical limitations at the time, but now we have the power of next-gen consoles and PCs. They could definitely make it work now. There's a mod on the PC version of Hit and Run that shows how this very concept could and should work. And honestly, it looks and feels natural. Like it should have been this way from the start, What I really love about it is how it makes the map look bigger than it really is. Here's an example. Okay, so I'm at the Springfield Dam near Camp Krusty from levels 3 and 6. This is pretty much the outskirts of Springfield, the woods and mountain areas of the game. From here you can see downtown and the stadium from levels 2 and 5. And from the same spot you can see Springfield Penitentiary and Evergreen Terrace from levels 1, 4, and 7. Like, how fucking cool is that shit? This is honestly something I've been dreaming of seeing back in 2003, but finally, seeing it fully realized all these years later, it's like, wow. Dream come true, man. Never thought I'd see the day. But yeah, seeing these locations from one spot makes you feel a decent sense of scale. It's not a massive map, but it's, a decently sized one. And of course, I'd expect them to expand the maps a bit, add a few details and areas like in the Destroy All Humans 2 remake. And with a bigger map to explore, we're gonna need an increase in traffic variety and pedestrian diversity as to not come across the same 3 people and vehicles over and over again like in the original. And since we don't have to worry about limitations anymore, let's have these additional peds and vehicles do different things throughout the map. Instead of them just running into each other, standing in place, staring at each other like creeps, then run away after you kick the shit out of them or honk your horn. Let's make them feel like actual citizens of Springfield by making them carry out tasks and interact with the environment. Let's have them maintain plants or bushes. Let's have them sitting on benches, window shopping. Let's bring some life back to Springfield. Rather than walking around like drones, they'll actually do stuff. While we're on the topic of pedestrians, how about we add some notable background characters into the mix, you know, like let's have Fat Tony hanging around a legitimate business club in the shady part of town with his posse. Let's have Super Nintendo Chalmers walking around Springfield Elementary inspecting things. There's a ton of side characters you can throw in around the map. They sorta did this in the original game as well, but not really to its full extent. Anyway, now that we improved the pedestrian system, let's fix the vehicle system too. In the original Hit and Run, if you so much as give a car a small little love tap, their AI seemingly just turns off for like 30 seconds. It just shuts off. And then it starts driving off again like nothing happened. So instead, let's just have them be more reactive. They should either 1, get out of the car and inspect the damage, 2, get pissed off and try to run you off the road, or 3, drive away like a coward. Also, with the original's traffic system, we were only limited to a few cars per level. Well, that limitation is no longer needed, so we can pretty much expand the entire catalog of the game's vehicles and just place them around the map. To increase immersion, we can have time of day specific vehicles spawn alongside normal traffic. Like let's get school buses, milk vans, and garbage trucks spawn exclusively during the mornings. Vehicles like armored trucks, pizza delivery vans, and ice cream trucks would appear during the afternoons. And sketchy cars like black Ferrinis, the Buzz Cola trucks, or even chase sedans could appear during the night. Also, let's keep some area-specific vehicles and pedestrians to add to that level of detail. Fish trucks and dock workers will be found at the squid port, nuclear waste trucks and hazmat guys near the power plant, taxis at the downtown area, etc. On the subject of vehicles, I think they ought to make every car available as an unlockable. Not through a cheat code like in the original. In Hit and Run, there are a total of 42 unlockable vehicles, but however, there's a pretty sick cheat code for when you beat the game 100% that lets you access to mission-only traffic and unused vehicles, totaling the amount of drivable vehicles to around 80. Almost half of those vehicles are restricted to cheat codes only, which sucks ass. So this time around, I'm expecting a legitimate way of unlocking every single vehicle within the game. Let's buy some of them from Old Gil, do some side jobs or challenges for them. I just want to be able to access any vehicle from the game via the phone booth at any given time after unlocking them. Speaking of unlockables, alternative costumes should be back and better than ever. Characters from The Simpsons have an extensive wardrobe from throughout the series, so let's see more of those costumes make it in, you know? Let's have a Herb Powell or Krusty costume for Homer. Let's have a red dress costume for Marge, that sweater vest for Bart or Lisa's church outfit, the Pimp Pals uniform for Apu. However they bring these costumes into the game, I just hope that it takes more to earn them than just buying them for a certain amount of coins. I want to be able to unlock some of them through other means like completing challenges as mentioned before, you know, finding them. Maybe you'll be able to unlock some as part of a reward for getting 100%. I mean, you never know. There needs to be a better reward on completing the game 100%. It bugs me that the reward for hitting 100% completion on the game is just some stupid golden sticker on the scrapbook in the main menu. Well, I mean, it is a pretty cool sticker, I guess, but you know, 100%ing the game could have been a great way to introduce new content for those who reach that peak. New vehicles, costumes, a mission, a level. Hell, I mean, I would have taken an accessible version of the rich area and the power plant from level 7 since it's pretty much blocked off. I mean, hit the high achievers with something worthwhile, you know? Let them play as any character or pet like in the PC exclusive cheat code that lets you do that. I mean, that would be awesome. Art style. Now, the stylization choice for the Simpsons Hit Run is something not many people talk about. Many of the fan-made remakes or remasters have always overlooked this as well, choosing to go with a more cartoonish and cel-shaded look that in my opinion looks way off, at least for me. No disrespect to them, I just don't think the show's cartoon look translates well into an open world game, and Matt Groening, the creator of The Simpsons, thought the same way. During the development of The Simpsons Road Rage, the predecessor to The Simpsons Hit and Run, the game's visuals were a lot more accurate to the show, having a very bright and cartoony palette to it. Up until Matt Groening got a hold of the game and asked the team if they could probably make the graphics a little more, video gamey. The end result is the visuals we have today, and I gotta say, he made the right call. The suggestion influenced the way the Simpsons Hit and Run ended up looking, which has this perfect blend of like semi-realism mixed with cartoonish elements. It's kinda hard to explain, you know? I strongly believe the original art style should remain the same. Might be a bit of a controversial statement, but it is what it is. Casting. One of the game's main problems from back in the day was repeating voice lines. Some people found it annoying when characters would say the same thing over and over again. Personally, I didn't find them as annoying as others. As a matter of fact, I didn't mind it at all, but I can see how it could become a bit of a problem, especially for today's generation of gaming. The solution to this boils down to three major and problematic paths. We either A, keep the original voice lines, B, we keep the original voice lines plus we add additional dialogue, or C, we re-record everything. I'll go over the pros and cons to all three, starting with A, we keep the original voice lines. This would mean no additional dialogue will be recorded. The pros to this is that it's true to the original game and it's the most authentic option. The cons, however, it'll get annoying after a while, plus it closes the doors on any new and original scenarios or missions. Alright, option B, keep the old voice lines and add additional dialogue. Pros, it'll keep the voices from becoming repetitive and stale fast, and opens the possibility of additional content. Cons, there will definitely be a difference in quality. The fact of the matter is that most of the voice cast doesn't sound the same as it did 20 years ago, especially Marge. Her voice actress is notoriously sounding like she's struggling to maintain the voice all these years later. If they find sound-alikes that sound similar or exactly as they did back in the day, maybe it can work. Or if they did some sort of AI voice thing with the original voice actor's consent. By the way, I know that AI is considered an evil thing in the many corners of the internet. So before you rip me a new asshole, let me just add the word consent. But either way, they're still going to have to work with the compressed audio files of the original, unless they can somehow find the master audio files. I mean, these days anything is possible. Alright, option C, re-record everything. Pros will have a consistent quality of audio throughout the entire game. Cons, a lot of the charm from the original game will dissipate. Hearing things like,
I'm a lean, mean speed thingy,
and
save me, Jeebus,
in a different tone or manner wouldn't be the same. This is where I have to bite the bullet and say I'd rather go with B. Sure, we're gonna have some sound inconsistencies, but at least we'll have the original voice lines in, plus we run into the possibility of having additional story content. So it's the best of both worlds in my opinion. Character selection. In the original Hit and Run, the only way to play as the character you wanted was to select the level they appeared in. This meant you weren't able to play as Bart, Lisa, or Apu in Evergreen Terrace. And you also couldn't play as Marge or Homer in Downtown or Squidport. Again, at least not when they appear as a driver. While considering the map in this hypothetical remake is now one large map consisting of all levels, this will become a thing of the past. You'll be able to play as your favorite characters in any point of the map. The real question though is, how will you choose between these characters? The obvious way would be locking the characters behind a set of missions just like the original, but I think this is just boring. I want to see it done differently. Instead of having to wait for a certain point in the story to unlock a character, why not just make them available from the get-go? The way I'm imagining the character selection to go would be similar to the Simpsons game, where you go up to the 5 playable characters and pressing the action button to switch between them. To make it a bit more immersive, let's have these playable characters carry out tasks throughout the day, meaning you'll find them in specific areas depending on the time of day, where it makes sense of course. For example, during the day you can find Homer at the power plant, Bart would be at the playground behind the school, Lisa will be inside the school, Marge would be in the grocery store, and Apu would be inside the Quickie Mart. During the afternoon, Homer would be at Moe's, Bart would be in the Noiseland arcade, Lisa would be in the Java server, Marge would be at the Simpsons house, and Apu, well, still at the Quickie Mart. During the evening, you'll be able to find the Simpsons family inside their home, with the exception of Apu, which of course will still be at the Quickie Mart. If anything, the main missions would be the only thing locked behind progression, though this is where we find a few problems with the whole open world map concept. The races, specifically the 3 races given to the player by Nelson, Milhouse, and Ralph, or Louie's wager races as well. And what about the collectible cards and gags? I mean, all these things are going to have to be overhauled or changed in some way. The way it should be handled, in my opinion, is having these races spawn in their original locations depending on the character you play as. For example, if you play as Lisa, the race locations would spawn in the same locations as in level 3 in the original game, but this would cause some problems for Bart and Homer, as they're the only characters that appear in more than one level. But I mean, hey, who knows, we could probably see brand new sets of races per character rather than having just one. As for the collectible cards and gags, since this is an open world map, I don't think it's necessary to have level exclusive cards anymore, unless you want to go the route of the Simpsons game, which is just specific to that one character. Alright, on to the miscellaneous stuff. In the Hit and Run remake, I would really love to see a day and night cycle. I kinda alluded to this earlier with the whole vehicle time of day thing. In the original game, each level has a set time and it doesn't really change. So this time around, I really want to see a day and night cycle. Well, what about you guys? How will your ideal Simpsons Hit Run remake look like? Who would be your choice of developers? Was there something you didn't like or didn't agree on? Let me know down in the comments. I know most of you will most likely be more creative than me, so fire those ideas away. If ideas get interesting, I might make a part 2 to this, a community suggested wish list, so who knows, you might be in the next video. Anyways, you all, thank you for making it to the end. I had no idea it's gonna be this long, to be honest, but here we are. You're all absolute giga chads. Take care, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.
You know, I'm old enough to remember back to simpler, more innocent times when the worst thing you'd hear about the news was hijacked jetliners flying into buildings.
Oh, now, Gilbert, you're going to get into trouble again.